This is a specific type of survey that was developed by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers that the state has adopted as their survey method. It's basically takes an inventory of all the different plant species in the lake, not just the exotics. And then it rates them on their density. So we use a code A, B, C, or D to rate density. For example, like the lily pads there, those are at fairly high density, but they're not covering the whole littoral zone. So we give that a C value. If those lily pads came out all the way to the boat, we would say it's almost 100% coverage. We give it a D value. If a plant, we just see one or two plants in an area, we give it an A value. And a B value is just medium density. And when we get back to the office, we enter all this data into a spreadsheet, and it will give us the percent cumulative cover of each different plant species on the lake. But you can also see the distribution of the species around the lake, whether it's a rare occurrence or a widespread species. It really helps us guides management, different management options. If it's a high level, we find a high level of milfoil in the AVAS survey. It's kind of an indicator that the lake might be ready for a whole lake sonar treatment, fluoridone treatment, which we do about every 3 to 5 years out here to kind of reset the lake in terms of the milfoil. If it's lower, typically we want to see 15% cumulative cover or greater. If it's below that, then it makes sense to stick with conventional spot treatment. We've been doing this every year since we started working out here, so we have a pretty good long-term record of the plant community and how it's changed. Unfortunately, what we've seen is that the number of species that we're finding has gone up since we started. I think a lot of that has to do with the change in water clarity. You're seeing more plants grow, but you're also seeing, perceiving the lake is a little bit weedier, but for the most part, it's the good weeds that are dominant as opposed to the exotics. So. What you'll likely see is a band of milfoil growing from probably yay deep water, knee deep water, out to the 10-foot depth contour. Milfoil grows by fragmentation, so every time a boat runs through it, each one of those floaters will grow roots, float to some other part of the lake, and start a new colony. Milfoil is also a canopy-forming species, meaning it grows right to the surface and it keeps growing, so it starts spreading, kind of like spaghetti on top of the water. It now competes the native plants, so what you'd likely see is a lot fewer native plants in a plant community that's a monoculture of just Eurasian Water Milfoil. Whether that takes one season or 4 or 5 seasons, you really can't tell. Paw Paw Lake is a fairly productive lake in terms of growing weeds, so it'd be reasonable to assume that it would probably take off faster than slower. The lake was similar to that before we started the first treatment, where it was high density milfoil growing out, almost to the 10-foot depth. The first year we started the treatment, we started with a whole lake sonar treatment, fluoridone treatment, which is a unique type of treatment. No matter where the milfoil is hiding, if it's hiding underneath the dock, or out in 12 feet of water, it's contacted, since we're applying the product to the whole lake applying it to the whole lake, but at a very low dose. So it gets all the milfoil in one shot. It's kind of a lake-wide reset of the milfoil. In the years following, we try to put out the little fires as fast as we can so it doesn't spread. Sometimes we can do that for 2 to 4 years. Sometimes we can, we've had programs that have gone 10, 12 years without needing another sonar treatment. Every lake's different. But for the most part, we've been able to keep the milfoil at a low level, allow the native plants to come back, and Now it's to the point where sometimes the native plants are, people consider them a nuisance, just as bad as the milfoil. And if that's the case, we do offer treatments, but we don't normally recommend treating native plants lake-wide. We want them to flourish. We want to have a healthy fishery, a healthy aquatic plant community. So this is Eurasian Water Milfoil. That's our primary target out here. And this is thin leaf pondweed. This is it's a native species, but we do target it because it does become a nuisance out here midsummer. Probably the only native species that actually gets to nuisance levels. This is just a small occurrence in the water, but just got off the lake from doing the AVAS survey. A lot of different species of plants, primarily naiad and eelgrass are probably the most abundant species on the lake. Coontail and Eurasian Water Milfoil are probably a close second. But we did find large leaf, Illinois variable leaf pondweeds, water star grass, white and yellow lilies, Elodea, so a lot of different native species. Based on the amount of milfoil we saw, I would imagine that the percent cumulative cover would be fairly high. Did see a pretty even distribution around the lake of milfoil. Some areas being high density, other areas being sparse. But we'll take this information back to the shop and tally up the AVAS, see what we have, and help us guide management for next year.